All right, we're live, Jim.
Okay, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Middlesex County Library Board meeting for Tuesday, January 22nd, 2021. And I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask for provision for disclosure of pecuniary interest or any general nature thereof. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the minutes of Middlesex County Library Board meeting, May 25th, 2021. Is there any questions or comments with respect to those that were distributed? If not, I look for a motion to approve. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I don't have a question on the minutes, Chair. It's just on the minutes, I wasn't at that meeting. So they just need to be amended on the attendance.
Okay. Any other questions with respect to those minutes? Then if not, I look for somebody to move it for the approval. Moved by Brad Richards, seconded by Ruth Adams. Any further comments? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the visioning topic, early years program, service the strategic planning process. This is Nadine taking us through this one.
Nadine and Shauna, I'll just share the presentation from here.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. So today, Sean and I just wanted to take this opportunity to share some highlights from the process that we took to establish an action plan that will guide not only early on programs, but early years programs delivered across library branches. So this was a collaborative process that was undertaken with library branch staff and the early on team. Next slide. Sometimes it sticks, I find. Great, thanks. Okay, so we'll start off by sharing the purpose of this strategic planning process, and then we will provide some highlights of the process taken. And then I will hand it off to Shauna, who will share some highlights of the plan and discuss some of the activities that are already underway to implement the strategies within the action plan. Next slide. The goal of this collaborative process was twofold. We wanted to nurture the relationships and foster a shared understanding of the unique expertise and experience library branch staff and early on staff have in the area of early learning. As well, we wanted to collaboratively identify areas of priority and establish a plan to support the delivery of programs that meet these priorities. Next slide. Next slide. So in terms of the process, we started off by inviting all staff, all library branch staff and early on staff to attend a virtual meeting. This initial meeting was held on February 22nd and involved 12 staff. And then we held a follow-up meeting on March 29th. At the initial meeting, we spent thanks, Lindsay. We spent the first half getting acquainted with the various documents that support the work that we do. So these include the Middlesex County Library Strategic Plan, the Ministry of Education Business Practice Guidelines, namely the mandatory guidelines that guide early on child and family centers. We also took a look at the Middlesex County Child Care and Early Years Plan that was established in 2019. And lastly, the Keeping Kids Healthy Through Collective Impact Plan, as well established in 2019. And then we delved into the early years program and services audit that was as well completed in 2019. So following this, we divided the group into breakout sessions as an opportunity to reflect on the information that was shared. The reflective questions that were included were: one, what stood out to you about the early years programs and services that we offered in the past? So that was an opportunity to reflect on the early years program and services audit. Did the data provide insight into programming and services that we could consider offering in the future? So part of that program audit was looking at what was identified by the community in terms of needs. The next breakout session looked at what are the outcomes you would like to see for children and families 5 years from now, or what difference do you want to see in 5 years in our community? And then the last question was, considering the common why or these outcomes, what actions could we take over the next 5 years? So what programs and services do you think would help to achieve these outcomes? We also invited staff to participate in a Mentimeter activity. This allowed for staff to share keywords that came to mind when they were thinking of delivering programs and services for the early years. So depicted here is a word cloud. So the larger the word, so for example, where you see fun, learning, teaching, interactive, those are words that were more frequently mentioned by staff. Later, Shauna will share how this word cloud was used to formulate a set of guiding principles that will support the work that we do. Next step in the process is, after this initial meeting, we took a look at all the comments and the feedback that was shared through the breakout sessions, and we sorted those according to themes. And what we found is that there were 4 key themes that emerged, and those included an area around communications and connections, a lot of focus on access, equity, and inclusion. A lot of themes looked at the types of programs that we offered, and lastly, looking at capacity building and professional development. So again, after we identified those 4 emerging themes, we continued to look at the comments and the feedback, and when possible, tried to align any themes that we were seeing with the existing action plans that I had mentioned previously. And from there, we were able to identify some strategic priorities, strategies for actions, and short-term and long-term outcomes. So though later, Shauna will share highlights of those 4 strategic priorities and the 10 strategies for actions that were identified. And I will now pass it on to Shauna.
So I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of the plan. So this slide shows an image of the Middlesex County Library Early Years Programs and Services Action Plan from April 2021. So these are the 4 strategic priorities of the action plan. So the first one is fostering connections. So supporting connections between children and families and the services and supports they need. The second one is supporting inclusivity. So advancing an inclusive approach to programs and services for children and families. Third one is responding to community needs. So championing community priorities and responding to evidence-informed community needs in an innovative way. And lastly, we have building capacity. So supporting professional learning, capacity building, and team building. So this slide shows you our guiding principles. So as Nadine mentioned earlier, both early on staff and library branch staff participated in an activity during one of our meetings to formulate a word cloud which described early years programs. So we took some of those words and used them to create the guiding principles that are on this slide. These principles state our values, such as children learning through play-based learning opportunities, the principles of how does learning happen, the development of literacy skills through books and social literacy experiences. We value inclusivity, and that our library branches are viewed as trusted community connectors. So some of the words specifically that we pulled from the word cloud to formulate these guiding principles are learn, engaging, fun, enriching, play-based learning, how does learning happen, literacy, families, and inclusive. So this slide shows each strategic priority across the top. So fostering connections, supporting inclusivity, responding to community need, and building capacity. So we've made progress in our strategies for action under building capacity. We facilitated a half-a-day workshop this month. So the Canadian Mental Health Association provided all library branch staff and early on staff with a virtual session that focused on mental health and provided some strategies for self-care. We also have a second session planned for August for our early years staff, which also include early on and library branch staff. So this session will focus on how does learning happen document, and our hope is that this training will provide a shared understanding of how does learning happen across the system, which will then support staff in delivering high quality and inclusive programs and services. So on this slide also you'll see the strategies for action, as well as some short-term and long-term outcomes that we've developed. So through this process, we've also established 4 working groups that I will share some more information on in the following slides. So the first one here is Community Connectors. So the work of this working group will involve support to the implementation of actions related to community connectors. So this working group was established back in 2019, and we resumed work again in March 2021. So we're currently working on building a database of services and training to support connectors in their role. And the work of this group also expands beyond early years and will support programs and services for school-age children as well as youth. So the second working group will be focusing on collections and resources. So the work of these project-based working groups will involve looking at the resources required to support establishing high-quality, inclusive early years environments. So this includes things like books, toys, and materials for children's sections, outdoor spaces. So at this point in time, 2 project-based working groups have been identified. So the first one is a toys and materials review group, and the second one is a collections policy group. So currently, the toys and materials review is underway with the inventory and analysis completed for 1 comprehensive branch. And we will be working through more branches in July. And the collections policy group has had 1 meeting to review and analyze our existing juvenile collections policy with plans for a follow-up meeting in July. Our next working groups will be focusing on programs and services. So the work of these project-based working groups focus on developing high-quality, inclusive early years programs and services. So at this point in time, we have 2 project-based working groups that have been identified. The first one is a baby toddler book bag project, and the second is our summer learning program. So our baby toddler book bag group has their first meeting scheduled for July. And our early years summer learning group met in May and helped to develop some key early years programming for summer, including outdoor story walks, live Zoom programming, and story time programs. And just a small note about these working groups is that they're not fixed. We anticipate that more working groups will be established as opportunities arise in the future. And that's all. Thank you. Any questions?
Are there any questions with respect to this? I see no hands up, so it must be well covered then. So, okay. Thank you. There's no further questions, then we'll move on to action items. Library lending kiosk project. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair to the board. So the report before you gives a bit of a recap of this project. So I talked briefly about it at our last meeting, just giving an update on capital projects. So as we've discussed before, this lending kiosk is meant for the Adelaide Metcalfe municipality to be installed in the municipal office there, and I did present to Adelaide Metcalfe Council a few months ago on this, and have been working with Morgan to ensure that the space will work, and the unit, reviewing the units to make sure that they would work for the space. So this is just the next phase of that. So as you'll see in the report, at the outset of this project, library staff identified a number of key features that we were going to use to evaluate the kiosks that are on the market, because there is a variety of units, types, and price points as well. So the key features that are identified are browsing feature. So we needed the unit to allow for browsing the collection. So being able to look at a book, even pick it up, read the back, read the description, put it back if they decided not to borrow that item, but also the option to allow access to holds. So items that were specifically requested and transferred to the kiosk to be available for patrons. So that's browsing feature and hold pickup. And then we wanted to make sure that the technology allowed for real-time and very simple transactions, making it as easy as possible for users to access the items, and then making sure that our database, our library software, could communicate well with the unit and maintain our inventory in real time so that there was no confusion. The checkout process, we wanted it to incorporate RFID technology because that is another one of our capital projects. So we wanted the two to align and work well together. And then the overall design of the unit, we felt it needed to be able to obviously feature a design that's aesthetically pleasing and allow for the promotion of the library, and should also complement the installation site as much as possible. So vendors were contacted through this process, recognizing that our budget for the overall project is $65,000. We knew that we would be under the $50,000 mark for the unit itself. We would need to be, and we felt confident that we could remain under that dollar figure. So we did go through the quote process rather than an RFP process for these figures. So as the report reflects, we did receive the quotes that are presented before you. So through this market review and quote process, library staff determined that the Novel Branch kiosk is the only unit available within that price point, which offers all of the key features that we were looking for, and would provide us with a unit that would allow us to do everything we want to do in Adelaide Metcalfe, while also remaining affordable and within the authorized project budget of $65,000. The Novel Branch unit is available exclusively from Convergent Library Technologies, and so they've provided a letter stating that fact. They are also a Canadian organization, a Canadian company. The unit itself comes from overseas, but all of the installers, the team that does the work is in Canada, versus some of the companies are primarily located in the States. And with border challenges and everything, we felt obviously this makes the process easier as well, going with this recommendation. So they're located here in Ontario. So the recommendation before you is that Middlesex County Library Board approve the purchase of the Novel Branch lending kiosk from Convergent Library Technologies, and that I be directed, given authority to execute this agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just got one, Lindsay. When would it be in place if this goes ahead?
Looking to the fall. At this point, it would probably be October, but that depends on the shipping timeline. And I have, so I'll be getting back in touch with the company this week. I have a call scheduled on Wednesday to follow up to figure out what that timeline is, because that's really the challenge. We'll be getting it here, as it comes from the Netherlands. So.
Okay. Then, is there any questions then with respect to this request or this motion? The warden, Kathy.
Great, thanks through the chair, Lindsay. The one company had a subscription fee, and they were the only ones that did. And so obviously this one doesn't. And I just wondered what the rationale was behind the subscription fee.
Through the chair to the warden. So I believe they use a specific software, and that is that's the extra charge there. So a specific software that would be in the machine would still have to communicate with our library software, but that's the extra
That's the extra
annual fee.
subscription. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions with respect to this then? Then can I get someone to move and second that the Middlesex County Library Board approve the purchase of the Noble Branch lending kiosk for Coventry Library Technologies, and that the Director of Library Service be given the authority to execute the agreement? Moved by Mary Gay. Any seconder? The Warden, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any further questions? All in favor? Thank you. That's approved. Okay. I know this has been on discussion for a long time. So next we'll move on to Thorndill Library outdoor space. Nadine, you've got a report on this? Or you want to discuss this?
Sure.
We know where it is. We're on the property.
Yeah, okay. So this report just outlines our desire to adapt the outdoor space in Thorndill to support early years programs offered by both early on staff and library branch staff. So outdoor spaces, they allow for extensions of learning from the indoors with the added benefit of connections to nature. Thorndill Library is very fortunate to have a beautiful space on the backside of the property. It already has my kitchen and an established garden space that are very well utilized and very popular and appreciated amongst the community. The draft design for Thorndill includes a layout and materials that would support young learners in imagining, creating, constructing, developing their physical literacy skills, and enjoying a quiet area for stories and songs. As well, as I mentioned, we have a beautiful garden space there. However, it can get quite warm in the summer months. So library branch staff and early on staff requested a shade sail to provide much needed shade in that area. All of what's been proposed in the report was done in consultation with library branch staff and early on staff, as well as we had at the table staff from the director, Steve McDonald from the municipality of Thames Centre, who has approved the design and is very enthusiastic about the project. So as Lindsay mentioned in her previous report, we underwent a process of acquiring some quotes. So in the report, you'll see that there are 4 different quotes that were actually 3 quotes, and then one company who came back to say they would only work in our area if it was over 80,000. So in terms of those quotes, I know one company came in a little lower. Lindsay and I, and as well in consultation with Steve McDonald, we had some concerns with the company and some of the aspects of their plan. Obviously, one being that a couple of the different products that we wanted as part of the design, they don't produce, so we would have to acquire those elsewhere. As well as we had some concerns just around their plans for the engineered wood fiber. So in consultation with Steve McDonald and with other companies who typically use landscape fabric and a gravel base, that it's important to help in terms of the moisture in the area. And we do know that Thorndill is notorious for some wet land. And so we feel that that was very important for us to have the cloth as well as the gravel. Have done some consultation with some other early years agencies who have worked with one of the other companies, which is Active Playground Equipment, and the quality of their work, their support in terms of preparation, installation, and cleanup was all very, very positive. As well, the company they use to produce the shade sails is actually a vendor that we've used actually through Healthy Kids. We established in Strathroy and in Glencoe with the use of sunshades in those particular communities. And I know of other, I think Strathroy Caradoc as well has used, and I think Middlesex Centre has used this particular company, and the product they use is a very high quality. In terms of the funding, we did have some federal restart funding that we have allocated to this particular project, but in the end, there's still a balance that would be required in order to be able to move forward with this particular project. So in conversations with Lindsay had identified the potential of acquiring some funds through the Murray Murray Eugene Elliott, I apologize for that, the reserve fund there. And so we're requesting an amount of $18,000 to support that particular project. And if we can go ahead, I think we're very confident that this particular outdoor space will be amazing in terms of how it can support library-based programs and early on programs. And we all look forward to September or the fall and bringing back our community. And we really think that it would be a great space for the community to be welcomed back into. Questions?
Are there any questions with respect to this? And I just want to reiterate, I did know Murray Eugene Elliott. He's farmed just down the road from there, but I think it's a good use of that money that was left to bequeath to the library board. So I think it's a good project for it. So.
And I can, oh, sorry, Jim.
No, go ahead.
I can show a diagram if you'd like, just to visualize where on the site.
Yeah, I think it would be handy, Lindsay.
Would go. So you'll see the library. Sorry, it's a little blurry. So this is the library space here, and the existing reading garden, which is a beautiful space. So then you'll see that it'll kind of connect that parking lot with a bridge installation, and then this will be the layout. So the play structures, and then the area for the sun sail as well. So it'll really wrap all around the building, look really nice.
Just one question, and I don't want to sound negative, but where's the septic system there? Is that out that side?
I'm not sure, but I know we'll confirm that with Steve for sure. And I know that, I think, like Nadine said, we've worked with him already. So I think he's identified that, but that'll be part of the process.
So we're good with that. Okay. Any other questions in respect to this? Then there is a motion that the library board approve the allocation of $18,000 from the Murray Eugene Elliott Reserve Fund to support the Thorndill Outdoor Space Project for the library on early on programming. Look for moved by Brad Richards, seconded by Ruth Adams. Any further comments? All in favor? Favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 6, which is correspondence and information items. I'll go through these. If anybody has any questions, I know that we've got one we're going to stop for Zoe's report and also Lindsay's presentation. So I'll just go through these. If there's any questions, try to get notice them. 6A is system circulation and internet 2021 to 2020 comparison. Next is the accounts payable to June 14, 2021, totaling $76,483.68. Next is item 6C, newspaper article concerning Middlesex County Libraries, April to June 2021. Next is item number 6D, system curbside pickup and internet app appointments 2021 to 2020 comparison. Next is 6E, systems-wide programming May 2021. Next is social media statistics May 2021. Next is early on virtual programming May 1st to May 31st, 2021. Next is our Wi-Fi hotspot lending program, report from Zoe Riley Ensign. Did you want to speak on that, Zoe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Zoe Riley Ansons. I'm the interim technology specialist. I'm covering for Mallory Austin while she is away on maternity leave this year. So just a couple of comments to highlight on aspects of the report that you have. So we acquired our 25 hotspots at the end of 2020. I came onto the project in January of this year, and we launched our hotspots in our 5 comprehensive branches in the middle of February. So our hotspots are available for patrons at those 5 branches. They can be loaned out for 7 days at a time, and each loan gets 1,250 megabytes per loan. and they can be renewed once. So on each renewal, they do get an additional 1,250 megabytes. That 1,250 megabytes may seem like an odd number, but how we got to that is because each device comes with a monthly data plan of 5 gigabytes. So divided by 4 weeks is 1,250. So that is just to ensure that each of our patrons has equal access to our hotspots. We also decided on a 500 megabyte per day limit, just to help spread that limit out over the loan period. 500 megabytes may seem like not a lot of data, but it is sufficient for browsing the web, going on your social media, checking email, online banking, government forms, those sorts of activities. Activities that do consume a lot of data are primarily video streaming, audio streaming, and online gaming. So for those reasons, we have decided to filter out access to non-educational games and videos. So things like YouTube, Netflix can't be accessed on our hotspots, but other than that, we don't have a lot of filters applied. Staff do have the control to decide and set those filters. The one exception to video is that we do have access to video conferencing, because we want to make sure that during this time, when a lot of people are using those applications, that it is accessible on our hotspots. Since mid-February, we've seen 74 check-ins of the hotspots, and that's just up until the end of May. We've seen the most used at Glencoe and Strathroy, as well as a fairly significant use out in Dorchester. Lucan and Park Hill have seen a bit of a slower start, but we are starting to see them pick up now in May. We are seeing a lot of repeat users who are coming in back to borrow the hotspots again, which really indicates that it's been a positive experience for those users. They're making use of it, and we're really filling a gap that exists. Feedback that we've gathered has really shown that a lot of people who are borrowing the hotspots live in areas that don't currently have access to high-speed internet. So that really highlights the need for this sort of program, and it's great that the library is able to provide this service to those communities that don't have access to high-speed internet. We've seen that people have used the hotspots when starting new jobs, in job hunting, in finding government information, as well as just staying connected with family and friends. With online schooling, it has also helped to supplement this, especially in large families where you have numbers of people who are all working from home and all trying to access school online at the same time. It's not something that can completely fill that need for an entire family, but it's a great supplement. So going forward with this project, we are seeing that it is successful and it is helping meet a need, but we also want to look forward to see, make sure that we're reaching the communities that need it the most. So we are going to look at potentially redistributing some of the hotspots to different areas and figuring out the best locations to meet those users who need that access. It's also been challenging with promotions because it's a time where a lot of things are being promoted online. And this is a service that connects people who don't have access online. So we are exploring further options to make sure that we can get the word out and let people know that this service is available. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, open to any questions with respect to that? I think as a board, we're just pleased it's so well used, and that it was recognized as a need, and we're trying to fill the void, but I'm sure there's a long ways we can go. But I'm going to open up. Is there any other questions in respect to this? If not, thank you for that report.
If I could just add
Oh,
to that
yes,
one
go
thing,
ahead, Lindsay.
just building on Zoe's point about how we're trying to open up access at the smaller branches. So we think our process is going to be, we'll promote like put a poster at the Wardsville branch, at Delaware, at Melbourne, on the door saying, this is an option, this is available, along with the other print marketing pathways that we're investigating. But advertise it there. They'll have a phone number to call to get in touch with the library in order to book that unit. And then from there, we'll be able to see where the greatest need is. And then we can determine if we need to purchase more units to meet that need, rather than going out and just buying, adding another 10 or 20 units and not being sure where we need to target. We're hoping that this can show us where the greatest need is. And so that's where we can put our resources. So that's our plan at this point.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the 6.1 early years programs and service action plan. Anything different that wasn't covered off in the visioning topic?
No, we just wanted to put the full plan there.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay, next is library activity report. Lindsay, you have comments on this one?
Yes, so just some more information to expand on the report. So the report talks about our phased reopening plan, and I just wanted to bring some more information to you for your review and to make sure that we're on the right track. So at this point, we continue to offer curbside pickup and scheduled computer appointments. We've been able to maintain that level of service. Looking ahead to the summer, this is one of our considerations. We can maintain this level, our current level of service, as well as the variety of virtual programs and our planned in-person story times at our current staffing level. So that was a big consideration when thinking about this plan for our next phase of service. Currently, we're operating at about 45% of our regular service hours at our comprehensive branches and about 20% service hours at our enhanced branches. So that's the status that we're at right now. We do have big plans for the summer, very busy. A lot of staff work has gone into this plan, and we know the public is starting to get excited about it. Our communities are hearing about the programs and already registering for our summer programming. We know that capacity restrictions are still a bit of an unknown. So phase 2, we understand that capacity restrictions will be about 25% for libraries. Phase 3 and onward, they haven't set those figures yet, and what the restrictions will look like. And we know that capacity at our branches is easier to maintain by offering services that are scheduled rather than open access at this point. One of the other considerations, obviously thinking about basic branches, is how service can be offered at those locations. So our basic branches operate with one staff member. There wouldn't be enough physical space for 2 staff to work in that building and offer open access. So we took that into consideration when thinking about what our next space would look like. So what I have proposed, and obviously discussed with Bill and Cindy, and taken into account what we're hearing from the health unit and the positive direction that we're moving. So what we're looking at is a plan for September and October. So what I am recommending would be in September for comprehensive and enhanced branches to offer those scheduled appointments, to browse the collection along with scheduled computer appointments, and still maintain some curbside pickup hours. So, opening that access up a bit more while still making it less time consuming for staff to manage those occupancy restrictions. So that's what I have in mind for September. And then October, looking at the comprehensive and enhanced branches offering that unscheduled access. Now, this would be dependent on whatever the restrictions are, whatever the recommendations are from the health unit, and as long as everything aligns with what county HR recommends, what health and safety recommends. But this would be my goal for October. So around that October 4th date that week, start offering open access in comprehensive branches. The next week, move enhanced branches, open up access there. And then culminating in Ontario Public Library Week, which is the week of October 18th, and bring on our basic branches where we would offer scheduled access to those branches. So by that October 18th week, celebrating Ontario Public Library Week, we would be able to say that we would have all levels of branches, all locations open in one form or another. And I think that obviously our communities, especially those smaller locations, are really, really hopeful and looking forward to that date. So I'm just going to bring up my Excel spreadsheet just to help visualize those dates, if you can see it in front of you here. So like I was saying, September, start phasing it in week by week. September 8th for comprehensive branches to open up for scheduled appointments, and then enhanced September 20th, and then looking to October to work towards those dates. This would bring our service level, our service hours. We would, my goal would be hitting that 85% of service hours at comprehensive branches in October, 70% at enhanced branches, and offering 50% service hours at the basic branches. And then obviously increase from there. So, then as more restrictions loosen and as the year progresses, ideally by January, be back up to our normal number of weekly open hours and be able to offer that to the public. So this plan would require recalling additional staff. And so we would work on that timeline, throughout August and into September. So I think those are the main points, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that proposed plan.
Not any questions. I mean, it is a plan, but I know it all sets and it's we have to follow within the guidelines that's laid out for us. But I know that everybody's anxious to move ahead as quick as possible, but it's what we can do that within the guidelines that the province sets for us. So is there any questions with respect to this opening? Warden Kathy?
Yep, great, thanks. That was a great report, Lindsay, and certainly appreciate the plan. And like as the chair just said, of course, it's all dependent on, what those above us tell us how we can live. But I just wondered, I think it's measured. I think it is smart. Just wondering, as you talk to your colleagues in with other library systems, are they taking the same sort of approach? And is there anybody that's kind of jumping the gun, or are you finding that everybody's just taking it step by step?
Most are taking it step by step. Our approach is a little more measured because we are one of the only in the area who haven't opened for that kind of browsing access. I know some systems, their larger branches will be opening at reduced capacity in phase 2. So for them, it will be returning back to the service that they were offering before this latest stay-at-home order. So they've kind of been going back and forth. We've been maintaining that service level all along. I know that some branches over the summer plan to offer that scheduled access to browse the collection. So some are calling it like a concierge service. So it'll be, one-on-one service access that way. But I think what's consistent, especially with our plan, is that plan for the return of service hours. Everyone's looking to be around that 75% mark by the fall. And so I think our start might be a little slower, might be a little more measured, but we'll all be at a very similar point in the fall. So that's how I think we align there.
Any other questions then? Okay, see none. Then
I
we'll
do.
move. Sorry.
Oh, I do. Sorry, Chair. I do.
Sorry.
I have one more. I have one more question.
Okay,
Yes,
go
for
ahead.
Lindsay. Lindsay, do you think that there will be any issue with the return of the staff in terms of people deciding not to come back because they have jobs elsewhere, or anything of that nature as we are already seeing in other industries?
I wouldn't be surprised if a couple people, didn't return, but I know that, I'm still hearing from a few staff. I know that branches hear from their own staff who are currently still on layoff, still have those strong connections. So I'm confident that the majority will return. Of the adults. Students, that's a little bit more of an unknown. Because they may have gotten different student jobs, wanted to start right at the beginning of summer, which is understandable. But I'm pretty confident that and hopeful, obviously, that the majority will return, recognizing that we may have unfortunately lost a few due to other opportunities. I would have assumed they would have let me know. So, and that hasn't happened yet. So I am hopeful that we'll be able to bring back and make most of our teams whole again.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, then we'll move on to statement of revenue expenses.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just have a couple other things within that report to
sorry.
talk about. It's kind of a long one, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, I apologize. Go ahead.
The next section just talks about the Strathroy Library and early on renovation. So just wanted to give a few more details. So this report was written a couple weeks ago, so it's a little bit vague, but I did get an update from Rob Lilborn from Strathroy Caradoc. Unfortunately, dates are still a bit vague coming from the construction company. There are delays related to materials that the construction team is waiting for. So the aluminum frames for the glass wall at the early on programming room at the front of the library. They were hopeful that they'd have a date in mind either last week or this week. We haven't heard back yet. And then they can't make the final cuts to the glass until they have the frames in place because there's a curved section that they need to match perfectly. So there were those delays. Last night there was work done on the electrical service. So the electrical service to the building had to be upgraded. Integris did that work last night. So that was great that was outside of operating hours. And then I know that there's water service work that is tentatively scheduled for July 8th and 9th. So it looks like, we will likely be pushed into July before we get full occupancy. But again, our funding requires that the project be finished by the end of September. So that should give us plenty of space before that time. And then I just want to show you some good news, some exciting photos. So Nadine oversaw the installation of some of the early on play structures and shelving into the front space. She organized that yesterday. So this is a photo of, it's an airplane, and I picked this unit out. I think it's so cute and looks so fun in this space. It really made me excited about the progress that we're making. So this unit, kids can sit in it, use it as a reading spot, as well. It'll hold books or toys for both library and early on program use. So we've got that in place. Got the castle, just like the one at Ilderton, looks fantastic. Just the view from the street will be amazing and so inviting. So that looks great. And then we do have some new shelving for the kids area. So looks beautiful, it's curved, it's mobile, and we have a couple more units that go along with this as well. So we can't wait to get into the space and set everything up and really highlight those elements. So I just wanted to share that positive visual of the space. And then just a couple other points on that report. So we did have that staff development day that I believe that Shauna and Nadine mentioned with CMHA training for all staff revolving around mental health. So Nadine and the Community Connector team organized that. It was really, really great timing, really appreciated by staff. There was the kind of professional development side and also the personal side of managing our own challenges and mental health as we balance everything with work and at home. So I wanted to note that. And then just one other thing that I want to share, we have launched registration for the summer learning program. So the theme is Tales and Trails. And this year we staff came up with the idea of having email newsletters be the main form of kind of promotion and registration for these programs. So I just wanted to give you a sneak peek at what they look like. Just need to find my, what was it? I have too many documents open on my desktop right now. Sorry about that. So there is a newsletter for each age group. So you have the Explorers age group. This is the 0 to 6 group. So you have, Toddler Tuesdays, Stepping Stones, a Snorri time, so an evening story time for kids, author visit, Greg Pizzoli, those story walks that were mentioned in the visioning presentation, and our plans for outdoor story time. So great variety there. Adventurers is the age 7 to 11 group. We have a 3D printer challenge, family trivia night that we continues to be popular. More, outside experts and visits. So presentation by Salthaven, special guest Chris Pern, who is an animator. And again, Greg Pizzoli's visit will attract this age group as well. And then a program by scientists in school on candy chemistry. The next age group is 12 to 17. So one of the programs that we'll be running is Write Your Own Book workshop with Casey Lyle. We've talked about Casey before, published successful author herself. So she's going to be helping kids and teens in this age group come up with ideas, outline their stories, work toward finishing a novel. So that'll be a really fun program to take part in. Introduction to laser cutting, because we have our Glowforge laser cutter installed at the Glencoe Library right now. So learn graphic design basics, create your masterpiece, and then staff will help have those items actually cut, and then the participants can pick them up at curbside. And then finally, we have our Trailblazers, which is like from 17 and up, so into the adult ages. So we have Museum of Ontario Archaeology presentation, a local documentarian, Andrew Moyer we have a program scheduled with him. Make Friends with Salad, so an interactive salad making program. Poetry walk, photography challenge, reading challenge. And so you can subscribe to these newsletters from our website. And we're also working on a very exciting author visit, which we hope to have scheduled for August. I can't name names because we're still negotiating, we're still working on a date, but this author has a well-known young adult book, a new young adult book, promoted by a famous actress in the States. And we have kind of a local connection as well. And it's an Indigenous author, very exciting. So I hope to be able to send you more information as we nail that down, but it will be coming up hopefully in August, and staff are working really hard on that. So a busy summer planned, and I just wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek at what we'll be doing over the next couple of months.
Hey, oh, just a second. Is that the end?
That's the end. Sorry.
Okay. I apologize because I just, get moving along here. But if there's any other questions then with respect to Lindsay or her report? If not, we'll move on to item 6K, Statement of Revenue and Expenditures, May 31st to 2021. Any questions with respect to that? If not, I look for a motion that item 6A through 6K be received for information. Moved by Brad, seconded by Ruth. Further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any inquiries? I just got one, and it's maybe to Kathy. Kathy, what are you going to be doing with all your time?
Oh, Jim, maybe I'll come out to Dorchester to see you.
Oh, man. Yeah, that'd be great. No, anytime. Hey, let's move along to new business. Under new business, appointment of a secretary of Middlesex County Library Board. And there's a motion that Marcia Vanek, is that correct? Close enough? No, because you'll understand, the longer you're around me, you'll find out how terrible I am on names. So isn't that right, Liz? So we'll move along through, be appointed to secretary of the Middlesex County Library Board upon the retirement of Kathy Bunting, effective July 1st, 2021. Moved by Mary Gay. I need a seconder. Ruth. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much and welcome to that position, Marcia.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Our next meeting is September 28th. So that means everybody can have a good summer. And then the rest are listed there right through to December. I'm looking for, before we go, I just want to take an opportunity, if I could, because I'd like to do it publicly. Is the warden gone? That's too
You had to
bad.
pop off.
Yeah, but I just want to thank Kathy for all her help throughout the years with the library. Long before she was our secretary here, just in the clerk's position, she also helped the library board with numerous things. So I want to take the opportunity because Kathy's, and I would kid you not, has been a joy to work with for years, and always efficient, always on top of everything. And I'll just tell you of an incident where on a weekend I couldn't find something. I just said, at your leisure, can you send me something? And I bet you within 10 minutes I got the answer. It's not that I expect that, but it's just a service that is unbelievable and done by Kathy. And Kathy's been a big asset to our library and definitely the recording secretary. And there's no question about her ability to do the job and to work well with everybody. So I just truly, and this is personal, Kathy, I do want to thank you for all your help throughout the years. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. And you're welcome to Dorchester anytime. There isn't a gate there. You can come right through. So anytime. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and I've enjoyed working for the county for the past 31 years and on to the next adventure, whatever that will be.
Best of luck with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll work to a confirmatory bylaw that the first and second reading are confirmatory to our confirmatory bylaw. Look for a motion for that. Moved by Brad, second by Ruth. All in favor? It's carried. Now that the third and final reading confirmatory bylaw be given. Moved by Mary Gay, seconded by Brad. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. If there's no other business, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Ruth, seconded by Brad. All in favor? That's carried.